When I reflect back on my relationships, my friendships from age like 10 to 30, I notice a very fascinating evolution. Clearly, a lot of things have changed. But I want to look at the theme of survival, specifically in childhood, because I believe that childhood, regardless of whether the childhood is healthy or not healthy, I mean, there's something to be said about healthy childhoods because they do shape children in a drastically different way than childhoods that are not healthy. However, um, there are still times when a child is in survival, and that's usually because of the home that they are raised in. There's usually chaos, unpredictability, drama, gossip, um, and these people tend to feel unsafe, but they try to achieve a sense of safety by tuning outside of themselves and into other people. And this is oftentimes how things like, people who become empathic, codependent, people pleasing, all that kind of stuff, how that stuff happens. Um, but yeah, like when I reflect on everything, like I notice a very serious evolution. And the really cool thing to notice is that I went from like very serious survival, um, like trying to connect with people that were never actually safe to connect with, um, calling people friends that were never actually friends, right? Um, and I'm not going to name any names because boundaries, of course. But what I notice is that the way that I approached trying to make friends back earlier on in my life, like from age 10, I'd say like age 10 to age 20, was a very specific way, and it was based in survival, right? I learned dynamics of codependency, people pleasing. I learned to be highly empathic, right? Tuned in to everyone else in the environment to achieve a sense of safety. Therefore, with that, I also looked for validation and approval externally, right? And so, for healthy relationships later on in life, that model is not sustainable because it's a one-way street, right? So, when you're trying to make friends as an adult, it's important to reflect back on how things were earlier on and notice the dynamics, the themes, right? If the theme back then was survival, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, shut down, all that kind of stuff, right? That's survival, right? Healthy relationships are not based in survival. They're based in peace. They're based in trust. They're based in all of that wonderful stuff. I just realized that rhymed. And so, like, I'm actually at a point in my life where I'm making new friends. And I'm realizing that, and I mean, I guess this is kind of obvious, but it's cool to look at because as somebody who's really into personal and spiritual growth, I'm just like totally mind blown. Like when I like reflect and I'm like, holy shit, look at how much has changed about me, right? And this is the cool thing too, because yes, I'm focused on what I can get physically and what I can create and everything, but who I'm becoming has to be there in order for me to get and create differently. And that's the coolest part of this. So like when I look at where I came from of being somebody who, was in survival and tried to create relationships based around that, but realized that it was just a one-way street of Chris meeting everyone else's needs and nobody else doing anything for Chris. Like, and that's really not an exaggeration. I bent fucking over backwards for people. I did way too much for people. And that's, of course, a result of a lack of healthy boundaries. In other words, permeable boundaries, right? But I look back and I'm like, wow, survival, seeking external validation and approval and tuning into everyone else to achieve a sense of safety because you learned that everyone growing up was not safe. That doesn't work anymore. So now you have these new tools to utilize to show you, oh, that person's not safe. Oh, that person is safe. Oh, that person's not safe. That person is safe. It's kind of like swiping, like all that shit. It's like safe, not safe, safe, not safe, safe, not safe. But the thing to me that has become very real is just how much, time good, healthy relationships take. And when I say that, I don't mean people staying together for years and years and years and years and years. Specifically platonic. I'm not really talking about romantic. But just because people have stayed together for years and years and years and years and years and years and years does not indicate that the relationship is good or healthy. It just might mean that they're afraid to let go of each other. That's just the reality of it. But looking back earlier on in my life and realizing wow, that shit clearly didn't work. And of course it didn't work because it was meant for survival, right? What gets you out of drowning is not going to take you up to the moon. Right? If it's just a fucking floaty that you were thrown, you were drowning in the fucking water, right? And somebody threw you a fucking floaty, a little donut floaty, and you're like, oh shit, I made it. Okay, I'm not drowning anymore. Yeah, that's not going to get you higher, right? And so that's what's important to understand. I think that a lot of people, and I've been here, by the way, a lot of people have tried to make friends as an adult, utilizing the same dynamics, repeating the same patterns that kind of worked in childhood, defense mechanisms that, sort of worked in childhood. It doesn't work anymore. And that's the reality of this. So when you're trying to make friends as an adult, it's important to remember the one thing that you felt you couldn't do when you were younger was be your fucking self. And if you don't know who you are, great. Spend time by yourself, right? There's a good chance, and I've been here before, there's a good chance that a lot of the people that are in your life might be outdated. Especially if they've been there for years, decades, right? If you feel like it just doesn't click anymore, don't try to hold on to it. Let it go. It's going to be uncomfortable. But the fact of the matter is that what worked in childhood, defense mechanisms, patterns, self-abandonment, not catering to your own needs, that doesn't work in adulthood. It doesn't. As an adult, we're actually trying to go back to childhood to take care of the shit that wasn't met for us, right? The needs that we suppressed or that were just never met, the neglect, all of the fuckery that nobody deserved but happened, right? It's time to take care of that stuff, to work through it, to move forward, and to realize that, you can be open, you can be honest, you can talk about things. That's fucking cool, right? Because actually, if you present things from childhood, that's not really mature, And that will be felt. This person is not ready to connect on a higher level, on a emotionally mature level, right? And that's felt. And so really seeing it for what it is and just recognizing that what worked in childhood doesn't work anymore. And that probably stayed with you into your 10s, your 20s, even your 30s. This is for adults, 30, 40, 50, 60, whoever you are, right? What worked earlier on in life is outdated, and a new fucking blueprint needs to be set up, right? You need to understand that people actually want to connect. People want to learn about you, and they'll learn about themselves through you, right? So it's a matter of being vulnerable. It's a matter of knowing yourself. And really just opening up and communicating and trusting that intuition that wants to tell you whether or not somebody is safe, right? Trusting that intuition will change the entire dynamics of everything. That same thing that you abandoned, right? Because everyone else told you that it was a fucking lie. You were invalidated throughout your entire life, right? You learn to suppress that. It's time to listen to that. And then you can start opening up with people and recognizing whether people are safe or not and going from there. But again, when you're trying to make friends as an adult, what worked in childhood, it doesn't work anymore. You need to create a new path.